Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're striking in for something very practical but also incredibly high stakes. We're looking at professional life's pressure cooker. You know, those complex ethical dilemmas where your values and your professional standards, they just collide.
They really do.
We've taken a stack of sources, really detailed analyses of regulatory guidance, and we've tried to distill them into the clearest possible path for you to navigate these conflicts.
Right.
Think of those situations where, say, patient safety is fighting with team loyalty, or where personal convenience looks like a really tempting shortcut over just absolute integrity.
That's right. And these aren't just, theoretical puzzles. They are the moments that define your professional character, especially in fields like medicine, governed by bodies like the General Medical Council.
Mm-hmm.
So our core mission for you today is pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to walk away knowing the 3 highest scoring, safest, and really most appropriate moves when you're caught in these binds. We're focusing on choices that are driven by patient safety, by fairness, and strict adherence to professional standards, not the short-term fixes or the comfortable compromises.
And if we had to boil it all down,
Yeah.
the one central truth that just underpins everything we're about to talk about.
The ultimate professional truth in these situations is this. Integrity, transparency, and appropriate escalation must always be chosen over convenience, blind loyalty, or institutional pressure.
That's the foundation.
That's it.
Okay, so let's unpack that, this idea of foundational rules. Our sources make it really clear that these dilemmas aren't there to trap you. They're there to test whether you're upholding your core GMC duties and, I guess most critically, maintaining public trust.
Yes.
Why is that risk of compromising trust so high in these moments?
It's high because these conflicts always expose a hierarchy of values. When your immediate line manager asks you to do something quick, but maybe a little bit unsafe, you feel this natural loyalty to the team. But your professional duty, your primary allegiance, is always to the patient. And if you compromise that for the team or the organization, that breach of trust is, well, it's often irreparable.
So when we feel that collision patient versus team versus organization, what are the specific high-scoring actions we should be reaching for? What are the key things to keep in mind?
You need to prioritize a few things. First is candor, which is just absolute openness and honesty, especially if something's gone wrong.
Right.
Then integrity, so you stick to strong moral principles even when it's inconvenient. After that, respect for everyone involved, appropriate escalation when a problem won't go away, and maybe the most critical administrative act, detailed documentation.
And on the flip side, let's be crystal clear about the behaviors that just consistently fail, the ones that can get you into real trouble.
Okay, so you have to avoid convenience. Avoid blind loyalty to an unsafe practice or maybe a difficult senior. Avoid any unsafe shortcuts. And, explicitly avoid dishonesty, misrepresentation, or covering up errors.
So if it feels like the easy way out...
It's probably a trap, especially in an exam context. The easy path is rarely the right one.
Right. That distinction is key. Our sources lay out a really useful 3-step framework for tackling these. Can you walk us through that structure?
Sure. It's designed to give you an action plan when you're under pressure. First, you must uphold safety and professional standards. This almost always means politely but firmly declining an unsafe or dishonest request.
Not just going along with it.
Never. Next, you seek a constructive, compliant solution. Don't just say no. Suggest a safe, better way forward. You're a problem solver, not just a blocker.
Okay.
And last, you escalate your concerns if the pressure or the unsafe practice continues. And remember, documentation is woven through all 3 of those steps.
Let's put this into a real-world scenario. The first pattern is that conflict between institutional pressure and quality of care. So, scenario 1. A busy manager asks you to shorten the informed consent process for procedures because the department is way behind on its targets.
A classic.
This is metrics versus a legal and ethical requirement, right?
Absolutely. This is a huge test. Managers often feel pressure from above, but their pressure doesn't override your duty to ensure valid consent. Consent has to be voluntary, informed, and understood. If you shorten it, you risk invalidating the whole thing.
I can just imagine the pressure, though. The manager's stressed, the waiting list is long, you want to be a team player. So why is just doing as you're asked the path of least resistance? Why is that such a disastrous move?
Because that shortcut instantly exposes you and the hospital to legal liability. If that patient has a complication and then claims they didn't fully understand the risks because you rushed it,
the consent is invalid.
The consent is invalid, and you, the clinician, are the one who signed off on it. You cannot ethically or legally proceed without valid consent. End of story.
So what are the top 3 moves then? The ones that maintain both your integrity and your professionalism?
Okay, move number 1 is you politely decline the unsafe shortcut. You have to state clearly that shortening consent risks invalid consent and breaches GMC standards. The why is crucial.
Right, you're not just being difficult.
Exactly. Then in move 2, offer a constructive solution. This shows you're engaged. You could suggest something like running a group educational session first for general info and then following up with individual one-on-one consent discussions.
So you're improving efficiency, but not sacrificing the quality.
Precisely. And the third move, escalate if the pressure is recurrent. If this happens again and again, if the manager is always putting targets over safety, you have to raise it.
With who?
With the consultant in charge of the service or with the clinical governance team. This protects future patients from a systemic problem.
That third move, escalation to clinical governance, feels really important. For anyone listening, can we just briefly define what clinical governance actually means here?
Yeah, good question. Clinical governance is basically the set of systems and procedures designed to ensure high-quality clinical care and accountability across the whole organization. It's the mechanism you use to report systemic safety risks without, fear of personal backlash. It's your safety net.
Okay, so to give the listener a line they can actually use, what's a good verbal script for this consent pressure scenario?
You need polite refusal plus a solution. Something like, I can't shorten consent as that risks it being invalid. However, I can run a brief group info session, then do individual discussions. I do have to note that I'll raise any ongoing pressure to cut corners with the governance team.
Let's move to a situation that tests integrity above all else. Documentation. Scenario 2. There's been a negative outcome after a delay in care, and a senior colleague asks you to soften or even change the wording in the patient notes to make the timeline look better.
This is a big one.
It feels like a loyalty test.
It is. It's the ultimate test of integrity because you're being asked to falsify a legal record. The temptation to protect a colleague or the department is huge, but the moment you alter a note, you move from managing an error to actively committing dishonesty.
Why does that honesty, or candor as you called it, matter so much here?
Candor, that openness and honesty when things go wrong, is just foundational to the GMC. If a delay happened, the delay must be accurately recorded. Trying to hide it suggests you're trying to obscure the truth from the patient, their family, or, a future investigation.
So, faced with that pressure, what are the top 3 actions to keep your professional record clean?
Okay, move 1. Decline to alter the facts. This is non-negotiable. You explain that you must not alter the original entry. If a correction is needed, you can only ever use a dated, factual addendum.
An addendum.
Yes. Move 2 is to record objectively. If you're adding that addendum, you make sure it gives a clear timeline with objective, neutral language. You record facts like review delay was 45 minutes, not your opinion or some justification.
It's just the facts.
Just the facts. And move 3, escalate if you're pressured. If that senior insists you be dishonest, you have to escalate it immediately. To the duty of Candour lead, the consultant, another senior authority. You can't just let that request hang in the air.
I want to focus on the trap here. Why is retrospectively editing the note without a timestamp, just going in and changing it, why is that so catastrophic, even if you're just trying to make it clearer?
Because without a clear timestamp and your initials showing it's an addition, not the original entry, it looks like a cover-up. Medical records have to show a clear, tamper-proof audit trail. Deleting or editing original entries destroys that chain of truth. And that is a serious, serious disciplinary issue.
And what about that common but flawed idea of keeping private notes, just in case? Why is that little black book such a bad idea?
Oh, it's a terrible idea. 2 reasons. First, those private notes are unusable in any official capacity, for care or legally. Second, and this is crucial, keeping patient data outside of secure systems is a huge information governance risk. If that notebook gets lost or stolen, you've breached confidentiality.
So what's the clear, concise line we can use to shut this down while still offering the safe alternative?
The script is, I won't change the original entry. That entry has to stand. I'll add a dated addendum now with the factual timeline to clarify. If you feel more action is needed, we should discuss this with the consultant or the duty of Candour lead.
Okay, our final major pattern. This one addresses professional boundaries and conflicts of interest. Scenario 3. You've provided long-term care to a patient who is very grateful, and they insist on giving you an expensive, high-value gift. A new phone, maybe, or a lot of cash. This feels incredibly awkward because you don't want to offend them.
That awkwardness is exactly what makes it a dilemma. Gratitude is wonderful, but the boundary has to hold. Accepting high-value gifts, even with the best intentions, creates a perceived or an actual conflict of interest. It can compromise your objectivity, and the perception matters just as much as the reality.
So why is the tempting compromise, accepting it but declaring it to your manager, why is that still seen as poor judgment?
Because the professional guidance is about preventing the conflict from ever arising in the first place. While you have to declare small gifts, if you accept them, accepting something really high value, like a watch or cash, suggests poor initial judgment, regardless of whether you declare it. The highest scoring action is always prevention.
So what are the 3 highest scoring moves here that maintain integrity but also acknowledge the person's kindness?
First, politely decline. You have to explain clearly that professional guidance prevents you from accepting expensive gifts because of the risk of conflicts of interest. You keep the focus on the professional rule, not on their generosity.
So it's not personal.
It's not personal, it's professional. Second, offer a constructive alternative. Channel that generosity into a safe space. Suggest that if they really want to show thanks, a donation to a charity or filling out a feedback card for the team would be deeply appreciated.
And the third move?
Document the interaction. If the patient was really insistent, or if you refusing caused a lot of tension that might impact your future relationship with them, you must briefly record the discussion in the notes. This provides essential context for anyone else who treats them.
That documentation step is one I think people might overlook.
Yeah.
Why is it so important to note the refusal in the notes?
It's just risk management. If the patient later complains or the situation is revisited, you have a record that you upheld your boundaries.
Oh.
It confirms the discussion happened
Yeah.
and that you maintained your professional standards. It protects you and it protects the patient.
Okay, so what's the final conversational phrase for this one?
I'd use an approach like this. Thank you. That's truly very kind of you, but due to my professional standards, I can't accept expensive gifts. If you'd like, a donation to our hospital charity or official feedback for the team would mean the world to us. I will just note our discussion in the records now.
We've seen 3 very different scenarios there. Institutional pressure, documentation, boundaries, but they do all share the same DNA, don't they?
They absolutely do. So let's consolidate the many rapid-fire patterns that act as sort of universal tie-break rules for quick decision-making.
Okay, lay them out for us. The rules that guarantee the safest course of action.
Okay. Rule 1. Integrity beats convenience or loyalty every single time. Your first duty is always to the truth and to safety.
Got it.
Rule 2. Always prefer transparent, constructive solutions, plus appropriate escalation over silent compliance. You have to actively solve the problem, not just passively absorb pressure.
Right, be an active participant.
Exactly. And rule 3, always document the facts, any escalation you took, and the potential impact on care or the professional relationship. If you didn't document that difficult discussion, it could easily be disputed later.
This whole deep dive really shows that professionalism is less about having all the answers and more about knowing the ethical framework to apply when the pressure is really on.
Exactly. Understanding these decisions isn't just about avoiding traps. It's about establishing excellent governance in your own practice.
We've navigated some pretty critical professional minefields today. Let's just recap the 3 core takeaways for everyone listening.
Okay, first, when institutional targets or personal loyalty conflict with patient safety or standards, you always protect patient safety and GMC standards first. No exceptions.
Second, never alter factual documentation. If you need to correct or clarify something, always use a dated, objective addendum that maintains that clear audit trail of the original entry.
And third, manage your professional boundaries rigorously. Politely decline expensive gifts because of conflicts of interest, and document the interaction if that refusal creates any pressure or tension.
The knowledge is valuable, but I suppose the ultimate measure of professionalism isn't just knowing the right answer when you're reading about it.
It's having the courage to constructively and professionally enact that correct answer under the significant pressure of a stressed manager or an insistent colleague. That ability is the difference between simply good practice and excellent governance.
If you are looking to master these ethical frameworks and compliance standards and really integrate these high-yield decisions quickly and correctly, resources like PastMSRA.com specialize in helping professionals confidently navigate this kind of material. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into integrity and professionalism. We'll catch you next time.